Have you ever wondered what the absolute worst year in human history was? Forget 2020. Forget the world wars. Forget the Black Death of the 1300s. Historians and scientists are pointing to one specific year that was so catastrophic, so bleak, that it truly earns the title, 536 AD. It wasn't just a bad year, it was the beginning of a living nightmare that plunged the world into a dark age. So, what exactly happened in 536 that made it so terrible? Let's dive into the story of the year the sun disappeared. Imagine waking up one morning, and the world is just dark, not night dark, but a strange, eerie twilight that lasts all day, every day. This wasn't a local event, it was global. From Europe to Asia, a mysterious, dense fog rolled in and refused to leave for 18 long months. The Byzantine historian Procopius, who lived through it, wrote, "The sun gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon, during this whole year." He described it as a perpetual eclipse. People were terrified. They had no idea what was happening. Was this the end of the world? For centuries, the cause of this global dimming was a mystery. But modern science has given us the answer. By analyzing ice cores from glaciers in Greenland and Antarctica, scientists have pieced together the puzzle. Trapped deep within the ice are layers of volcanic ash, and in the layer corresponding to the year 536, there's a massive spike. It points to a colossal volcanic eruption, most likely in Iceland or North America. This wasn't just any eruption, it was so powerful that it spewed an enormous cloud of sulfates and ash high into the atmosphere, creating a veil that blocked out the sun's light and heat. The immediate effect was a drastic drop in global temperatures. Think of it as a volcanic winter. Summer temperatures in 536 plummeted by as much as 2.5 degrees Celsius, making it the coldest decade in the past 2,300 years. In China, historical records report summer frost and snow. In Ireland, the chronicles state there was a failure of bread from the years 536 to 539. The sun, weak and dim, couldn't provide the energy needed for crops to grow. This leads us to the next horrifying consequence: widespread famine, with the sun gone and the cold setting in. Agriculture across the northern hemisphere collapsed. Fields that should have been bursting with life lay barren. Harvests failed year after year. People were starving. The lack of food created desperation and social breakdown. Communities that were once stable and prosperous were suddenly fighting for scraps. This wasn't a short-term crisis. The cold and famine persisted for years, creating a ripple effect of suffering that weakened entire populations. The historical accounts are chilling. The Gaelic Irish annals mention the complete failure of the bread supply. In Mesoamerica, the once thriving city-state of Teotihuacan experienced a period of severe drought and agricultural failure that contributed to its eventual collapse. In Scandinavia, archaeological evidence shows that a significant portion of the population might have perished, with many villages being abandoned forever. It was a global agricultural catastrophe, and no one was spared. The very foundation of civilization, a stable food supply, was pulled out from under them. And as if a disappearing sun and mass starvation weren't enough, what came next was even worse: plague. The weakened, malnourished populations were the perfect breeding ground for disease. Just a few years after the long winter began in 541 AD, the first great pandemic of bubonic plague, known as the Plague of Justinian, erupted. It arrived in the Byzantine Empire, likely originating in Egypt, and spread like wildfire. The plague was devastating. Procopius, our eyewitness historian, described it in horrifying detail. People would develop fevers, swellings, and then, often, death within days. At its peak in Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire, it was said to be killing up to 10,000 people a day. Bodies piled up in the streets faster than they could be buried. The emperor, Justinian himself, contracted the disease but miraculously survived. However, his empire was crippled. The plague is estimated to have killed between 30 to 50 million people, possibly wiping out as much as half the population of Europe at the time. Think about the compounding horror. You're living in a world of perpetual twilight, shivering from a cold that never leaves. You're hungry, maybe even watching your family starve. Then, a terrifying, incurable disease sweeps through your town, killing your neighbors and loved ones. There's no escape. There's no explanation. This was the reality for people living in the mid-6th century. It was a triple punch of climate disaster, famine, and pandemic. The long-term consequences of this period were profound. The combination of environmental catastrophe and plague shattered empires and reshaped the course of history. The Byzantine Empire, under Justinian, was on the cusp of reuniting the old Roman Empire. But the plague and the economic collapse that followed halted its expansion and sent it into a long decline. The Sasanian Empire in Persia was also severely weakened. In Britain, the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms were just beginning to form. And this period of hardship and chaos likely played a significant role in their development. The economic fallout was immense, with agriculture in ruins and trade routes disrupted. Economies collapsed, gold, which had been the standard for currency, became scarce. In fact, analysis of historical artifacts shows a switch to using silver, and of a much lower quality. Right around this time, societies became more insular, more localized, and more violent as they competed for dwindling resources. This period is often referred to as the Late Antique Little Ice Age, and it truly was a dark age, not just metaphorically, but literally. So, when we talk about the worst year ever, 536 AD stands out because it wasn't just a single bad event. It was the trigger for a domino effect of global catastrophes that lasted for more than a decade. It was a time of fear, uncertainty, and immense suffering on a scale that's hard for us to comprehend today. It is a stark reminder of how fragile our civilizations are and how dependent we are on a stable climate. The story of 536 is written in ice cores, in ancient chronicles, and in the archaeological ruins of civilizations that couldn't survive the year the world went dark. It's a humbling lesson from history, showing us the absolute resilience of our ancestors who managed to survive the unthinkable. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into the darkest year of history interesting, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the past. Let me know in the comments what other historical mysteries you'd like to explore. See you next time.